Hey, it's BT with Tales from a Gemini. This one is a little bit different from any other episode I've ever done, but I think it's also maybe the most important episode I've ever done. My guest, Kat Lucas here. We talk about child marriage in America, and it really was eye-opening, and I just hope you enjoy this episode and listen and maybe get something done. Look up the Resiliency Foundation.
And Unchained at Last.
And unchainedAtlast.org. And so I hope you enjoy this episode. This one, I think, is going to hopefully make a difference. Enjoy.
Thank you.
It's weird not to be able to see it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Why? No, I mean to see the video of this. Yeah. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Hey, it's BT with Tales from a Gemini. We have an in-studio guest. And you remember like back in the 70s or 80s when like you watch a after-school special or you watch like a sitcom, you know, and it's a funny sitcom. And that was back when sitcoms were funny. But then they have that one to go, a very special episode of Different Stroke. You go, oh shit, it's not gonna be funny. You know what I mean? You're like, uh-oh, man, that's when Dudley got, felt up by that dude at the bicycle shop. Remember that? There's always that one like on Happy Days, the integration episode, like 2, 4, 6, 8, we don't want to integrate. One of those episodes where it's like, it's not really funny, but it's supposed to be, socially relevant. So this is what this episode is. This episode here is, it's my special guest, it's Kat Lucas. I met her, we both work out at the same gym, MMA gym. My guest, Kenny, you remember Kenny Big B from Dragonfly Fitness, the African-American Navy SEAL, who we've done 3 episodes together. Anyway, we work out at the same gym. So she hit me up on the DM. She slid into my DMs. I'm like, damn, girl, you trying to hit brother up, huh? So we were talking, and we got to, and I don't know how we got to it, and she mentioned that she was a child bride. And honestly, I didn't know anything about this at all. And I mean, I've heard about it. But you know how something, honestly, if it doesn't affect you, you kind of go, okay, you know what I mean? Honestly, you kind of go, oh, you look right, oh, that's terrible, but you move on. And then we got into it when we were talking, and we got into the depths of it. And then I was doing my research on it last night. And this is just, honestly, it's nothing short of horrifying to me. And I mean that. Nothing short of horrifying. So I have her on because I think this needs to be out there. I think this needs to be, more people need to know about this. So first of all, Kat, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much, BT, for having me.
So let's get about your background. So were you born and raised here in Indiana?
No, I moved here when I was in grade school. I was born in Harlan, Kentucky.
No offense, but you do sound Kentucky. You sound Kentucky all the way. Like if you said you had some moonshine on you right now, I'd be like, I believe it. I
might have some.
You might?
I might.
That was so mean. Anyway.
It's fine.
So you're born in Kentucky. So what kind of upbringing did you have?
Very conservative, very religious. I was in a very fundamentalist church. And
now, when you say fundamentalist, and honestly, I have no idea what that means because, I grew up in Oklahoma, but it was like, Baptist, you go to church on Sundays, Sunday mornings. Some people go on Wednesday night or whatever. So fundamentalist, like, what does that mean?
I'm using it in the way of very evangelical, but also they take the Bible as literal. They try to interpret everything as literal and applicable today as it was when it was written thousands of years ago. But also you mix in Appalachian culture with very conservative, ultra-conservative religion, and you get even more so, it might be more magnified than you would think of as, a typical conservative church.
Okay, so did you guys do you have TV in the house?
We did. When we moved here and we could afford it.
Well,
it was a different life in Appalachia.
So Harlan, Kentucky, that's in the Appalachian Mountains.
Yes, it's southeastern Kentucky. It's as far southeast as you can go without going into Virginia or Tennessee.
Wow.
It's up there, yeah.
Okay, so it's very rural?
Very.
Okay, so now why did you guys move here to Indiana?
Work. Most of my family, like a lot of families in the 60s, migrated here for work. And my dad didn't want to work in the coal mines anymore. My grandfather was a coal miner, died of black lung.
Wow.
And he moved here first. And then everybody kind of followed that because of work.
Okay. Now, did you like your upbringing, or did you know any better?
I didn't know any different. I didn't. And looking back, I mean, I had, there was a lot of positive, and I'm the person that I am because of that upbringing, and the values that I was taught, and the strength that I saw, especially in the women that raised me. My mom has 10 sisters.
Wow.
And we were all raised together. My youngest aunt is only like 7 years older than me.
Oh my God. So that's a big ass Thanksgiving then.
Yes, it was.
Holy, you put the Brady Bunch to shame. I mean, seriously. Holy moly, 10 sisters. Wow. Okay.
And one poor brother.
His hand-me-downs were terrible.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is all I knew. And we were even moving here, we all lived on the same street. It was a very communal, almost kind of living. You know, we had different homes. But,
okay.
But it was very community based. And that's what, I believe that's why as an adult now, I'm as successful as I am, because I did have a lot of support, even with the child marriage. As difficult as that was, I still had a support system that a lot of child brides don't have. And for my family, it was a lot of cultural. My mom got married at like 16. I think my grandmother, we don't know for sure, but we think she might have been around 13.
Oh, my
No, that was
God.
way in the, early
But that was back in the day.
1900s.
Yeah, that was back in the day. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
that was a different time. But so if we're gonna fast forward to you and your child bride, how did that come about?
I met in my church. I met this guy, and he was 19, so he was not a minor, which is most typical. But he was younger than a lot of child brides end up with their, quote husbands. We met in our church, and we were allowed to date. And I started dating him when I was 13, and we were engaged 6 weeks later and married 6 months after that. I got married the day that I should have graduated 8th grade.
Well, say that again, please, slower, because that hit me like a Mike Tyson right hook in 1985. So you got married.
The day I should have graduated 8th grade. I wore my 8th grade graduation dress to my wedding.
Okay. So now, man, I mean, but was that normal back then though? And,
No.
and what years was this?
This was 1977.
Oh, I think that was the year like Kiss Alive 2 came out, I think. I mean, that's how I go through years. So here I'm thinking you're going to say like 50s or 60s, but 1977, the year you should have graduated 8th grade, you're wearing the dress to your wedding. Did you guys get married at a courthouse or a Chuck E. Cheese? Where did you get married?
I hate Chuck E. Cheese.
I know why. Now I know why. I hate that goddamn rat. Okay.
We lived in Indiana, and we tried to get married here, but the state wouldn't allow a 14-year-old to get married, even with judicial approval, which my minister at the time tried to get judicial approval from a judge that he knew. And thankfully, the judge had enough sense to say no. So my mom took me to Kentucky, back to Harlan, where we were from, and we went there, and she signed for me to get married. Now, piece of that is you were supposed to have to be a resident of Kentucky to do this, but my mom gave her sister's address. They didn't check anything back then.
One of the other 9?
Yeah, yes. And so they gave me the license in Kentucky, and we got married in the pastor's living room that married my parents. He was very old. To say this man was old is an understatement.
It was him and Jesus.
It was him and Jesus.
You were on a double date.
That was our witness, was Jesus.
It was him and Jesus. And Jesus like, hey man, listen, can you buy me some beer?
Yeah. He's thinking like, this might not be a good idea. And the wedding was very interesting.
What was the wedding like? Was there a punch?
No. So here I stand
Lucky Charms cereal.
in my 8th grade maxi dress. And no, have you seen the scene? I think it was Ever After, the movie Ever After. Drew Barrymore, she played like a Cinderella character.
Okay.
And they're standing in the prince that she loves is going to be in an arranged marriage. So they're up there getting married, him and this other princess, not her. And the princess doesn't want to marry him because she's in love with someone else also. And so this princess she's sobbing at the wedding. She's just sobbing and sobbing. And finally they stop the wedding, and they, it all ends well because it's fairy tale. Well, mine, not so much.
Yeah.
So I'm sobbing. I was sobbing through the whole wedding. Like my cousin who stood up with me, she was the only one that she was only like 16 or 17. She was already married. And she was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, I couldn't even say.
Wait, now, were you sobbing because you were upset, or?
Yeah, I was upset. There was a lot of things that went on behind the scene. It was not a forced marriage, but I would say manipulation and coercion for sure on his part, not my family. But once we went and said, we want to get married, and my parents said that I could, it's like the ball started rolling, and I kind of lost control of the whole thing. And I never felt like I could go and say, look, hey, I don't want to do this. I can't do this, because I was a girl in a very, conservative family, very religious family. And my only reason to exist in the eyes of this culture was to be married and have kids. So in my eyes, this was what I was destined to do, and I didn't really have a choice, even though, and I was considered safe at this point because I wasn't going to get pregnant. I wasn't going to go out and get in any kind of trouble because I was going to be married, and that's what I was only supposed to do anyway. So, and I did try to break it off a few times with him through the 6-month, quote, engagement.
How did you try to break it off, though?
I just told him I would go to school to 8th grade, and my friends and my teachers would be like, why would you do this? You're barely 14. You can't get married? Like, you're too young. And my friends would be like, we're going to go to high school and we're going to go to ball games and have fun. And I would be like, yeah, I don't want to get married. And then I would go to him and say, look, I don't want to get married. And he would cry and he would threaten to kill himself and beg and be like, you have to do this. We have to get married now. And I felt a lot of guilt. Very transparent here. We were no sex before marriage.
Wait, did y'all?
We did not.
Did y'all even kiss?
We kissed, and the thing that I felt like I was bound to him that I had to marry him was because I let him touch me under my clothes.
Oh, I mean, was it heavy petting, as they called it back in the day?
Not really. More second base.
like you touched your boob?
Yeah.
Like he grabbed you like this?
Yeah.
Like this, or?
But in my mind, I was
a sin.
soiled.
Wow, really?
And yes. And so because I was bound to him because of that contact. And that's how I was taught, is if you let a boy touch you, then that was, you were no longer pure. And it was just an offshoot of that purity culture that became so devastating later, even in the 90s and 2000s. We dealt with that even in the conservative church, of that purity culture, that girls are tainted once they're, sexually active, especially, but in my case, even any kind of sexual contact like that.
Now, when you guys went out, were you supervised at all, or chaperoned, or what did dates consider when you guys went out and dated or whatever? You being that age, I mean, was there parents around you guys? Did you guys ride bikes? I mean, what was the situation?
Well, he was 19, so he had a car.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We went to movies and, just normal, mostly to the movies.
And no one thought anything? No,
surprisingly not. I think people probably in the church we attended when we moved here, there might have been people that I didn't know about that had reservations about it, because they were not from Appalachia, and this was not normal to them. But to my huge family, for the most part, it was just culturally, in their minds, it was culturally normal.
So when did you start? I mean, so the ceremony went and you were sobbing, crying. When did you like it hit? Like I want out. Like I mean, when did like you go? I mean, like I really want out. Like you can't. You're suffer. I mean, you're suffocated. You know what I mean?
Off and on I was married 14 years to him, and it off and on over the whole time. A few times early on, we moved away from the street that I was raised on in Indianapolis on the west side. And that was the first time I'd ever been literally out of the presence of my family because we had always just lived, like I said, almost communally. I mean, we didn't know whose kids were who. We all took care of each other.
Right.
You know, we drove each other's cars. There was we had no boundaries.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
No personal space. And so we moved several miles away, which meant I was very isolated because I couldn't drive. And I had no way to get anywhere. So regret set in, and I didn't identify it as regret, I guess, at the time. Fear, terror, like overwhelming fear and loneliness. And, I was running a household basically at 14 years old away from my family for the first time.
Running a household at 14. Mm-hmm. Okay. So like when there's a lot of people around that, like you said, basically, like that community helps raise a family, whatever Hillary Clinton said, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's true. But when you're away from that and then it's just you and your husband, to me, that's when reality sets in. And that's why sometimes, people, they meet in high school or college or whatever the situation is in a group. It's almost a gift and a curse. You meet them and you're having a good time. But when, like, say you have to move away and it's just you two together, that's when you find out, do I really like this person? You know what I mean? So did that set in? Like, I don't know if I really love him, or did that set in at all?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it did. It did, but in the same religion, there's no divorce. Divorce was not allowed, so that didn't ever enter my mind that was a possibility to get out. So I had to make the best of it and accept the situation. And I didn't even have a telephone, so I couldn't even call anybody. We couldn't afford a phone.
Did you feel trapped?
Yeah, a little bit.
but back in those days, it's like, I'm trying to look back in my day and trying to, figure out like how it was back then. We had phone, we had the rotary dial, and we may, if we were lucky, you had an answer machine. But I think that came maybe later. So like in situations like that, did you guys get along, or did he become abusive, or did you ever talk back? What was that situation like?
He did not become abusive. He never became physically abusive. But like I said earlier, he was manipulative, and he was the man of the house. I was raised very, patriarchal. The man's the head of the house. The most people's view, a lot of conservative people's view of biblical hierarchy of man, then God, then man, then woman. That was very, very much the case. So what he said, go. I've always had a mouth on me.
No, you? No.
So I don't know about talking back, but I was not the person then that I am now. And I had to, make myself smaller, and shrink to fit that submissive wife role. And I did that.
Really? Mm-hmm. Did you feel like a caged lion though? Honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the older I got, the worse it got. But you asked earlier when I realized that I really wanted out was really not until later in my 20s. I never went to high school, not a day. He had to go withdraw me from high school because he became my guardian, because my parents signed me up. That's what happens in child marriage that people don't understand, is it's really a guardianship situation, because when I got married, I was a minor. So he became my guardian.
He's your husband and your guardian.
Well, yeah. And he had to sign to withdraw me from high school because I got a truancy letter because I didn't go to high school, and he had to go and had to talk to the principal and at Ben Davis High School, That's where I should have went. And he had to go and sign for me to be withdrawn, and they approved it because I was married. And he was my guardian, and no further education was required. So I didn't go to high school. But then I always had a burning desire to have an education. So I had a baby at 15, miscarriage at 17, baby at 18, and a baby at 22.
Oh, my God.
And he had to sign for me to get prenatal care for my first child, my daughter, because he was my guardian. I could not even seek medical care without his consent. He had to sign for my driver's license. I couldn't get a driver's license without his consent.
You were essentially helpless in a way. I mean,
child marriage renders the child helpless. Like, that's a good word, because people don't realize the rights that they don't have as a child. You know, here you are in this situation, and you can't even get a divorce. I could not have filed for divorce as a minor. Minors can't go to a domestic violence shelter.
So even if you wanted to file for divorce, would he have to sign for it? Would he have to?
I'm not even 100% sure how that would work, but a minor cannot exact legal action.
Yeah. Wow.
Like that. So, you know, it's like once you're married as a minor, that you're stuck until you're 18, no matter what. Unless,
oh my God.
And it's used in that sense a lot to trap, especially girls, in a guardianship situation.
Now, you say you always had a burning desire for education. Yes. Now, did you like sneak education in, kind of like slaves did back in the day? They learn how to read, or instead of like, you know, going out drinking, you would like get a book and go, I gotta read this. I mean, it's seriously, because when people really, really, really want something, they find a way to do it. Yes. So is that what you did?
I did read a lot. And I still read a lot.
And then that was back before the internet and anything. So how did you do it? I mean, did you
walk to the library?
Okay.
I did walk to the library.
God, I love libraries. Aren't they the best? They're so underrated.
Oh my gosh. It's a lifeline for so many people.
Libraries are underrated. They actually are the heartbeat of society and definitely a community. What a library does, that knowledge of learning, it can't be understated what a library does.
Yep.
So you walk there and you read all day? And then go back and clean the house?
I would take them home, or I would ask my husband to buy me a magazine every now and then, because I had no control over.
Like, what would you get? Like 17?
Yeah.
Really? Like Teen Beat?
Good Housekeeping. You know, I was trying to learn, and I was taught that most of that stuff was pretty bad. I didn't do the teen magazines. No, I didn't, because in our religion, it wasn't okay to read that stuff. So I had to be super careful. But
he wouldn't want you to know about the Bay City Rollers or anything like that.
Right. Which I did love.
Who didn't love the Bay City Rollers? SATUYDA9. You go, I can't go out on Saturday night, but I like the song.
Right, exactly.
You couldn't go out unless your husband wrote it.
It wrote me a permission slip.
Hello, officer. This is from my husband. He said I can go out.
Right. I didn't have any way to get there. I had to walk or ride my bicycle.
Or take a bus. I know. You ride your bike to the club.
I was too young to get in. I could be married, but I couldn't go to the club.
Whose tricycle's out front? That would be mine. Okay. I know. Okay. So now, when is it getting to the point where you just you can't take it anymore?
So when my youngest was a couple years old, I went and got my GED. And even back like in 8th grade, I was a straight A student. I went and got my GED, and then when he went to kindergarten, I went to college. And when I went to college, it was like, I can't explain what that opened up in me. And then I realized the contrast of my life and life outside of that.
That must have blew you away.
That's when I was like, this is not what I want. Like, this is not what I would have chosen for myself.
What college did you go to?
I started at IUPUI. Okay. And then I ended up graduating from Ball State in medical imaging.
My God. So that, honestly, that is almost like, it's literally like night and day.
It was absolutely. Like, when I walked onto that campus the first day, number one, I was terrified.
Of course.
Terrified.
You were around black people for the first time?
I was, yeah.
I mean, seriously, like, oh my God, they're free.
I was actually around. No, I went to school. I was in the busing, situation.
That's right.
So in 5th grade, I went to I got bused into a more diverse school.
Okay.
So that wasn't a shocker to me at all. But because I had been told, I'd been taught that anybody outside of our church or, religion and all that were bad and wrong, and it was scary. The world was scary, and, they were going to, lead you astray. And,
right.
There was just a lot of fear embedded in my upbringing.
Of course.
And there isn't a lot of religion. And then I got into college and I realized that, these people are nice. These people are so welcoming to me, and people are very helpful. And it really, I just can't explain how eye-opening it was. And that's when I really knew how unhappy I was in that marriage, because I hadn't known anything else. And when it's like a caged animal doesn't know it's caged.
Yeah, I mean, you're almost born into captivity.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like you were put into a time machine and you went to the future. Mm-hmm. Right? So I'm sure you're at campus. You probably have friends that go, hey, you want to go out? We're going to blah, blah, blah. And you go, I can't. I got to go. My husband. And
I had to go home and cook dinner and take care of my kids and husband.
And I'm sure that was a big clash at home, wasn't it?
It was. We talked about it, and I told him I wanted to go to college, and he was very concerned. He was concerned about, I think, the eye-opening experience that it would be.
Of course.
And he was also afraid that my, duties at home would suffer. And I assured him that it wouldn't. I'd still keep the house and cook dinner every night and all that, which I did. And nobody in my family believed that I was smart enough to do it. They're like, you didn't even go to high school. You can't go to college. And I was probably too dumb to know I couldn't.
But did you have anybody to rely on, though? Because like you said, everybody's talking to you like that. Was there anybody, your confidant, that you're thinking, there's a whole new world that I really want. I want to get away from this world when I want to go here. Or did you have to learn it on your own?
A big portion I did have to learn on my own. I did make a friend that was outside my family and church because I ended up leaving the church before I got a divorce. And I knew I was going to have to in order to get a divorce.
Wow.
But that wasn't really my motivation, actually.
Yeah.
I was just felt stifled in that church, and the judgment aspect of it. Everybody's going to hell but us. We're right. I didn't want to raise my kids in that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the reasons for leaving the church was because I didn't want my children to grow up with those kinds of, ideas and elitism and, I'm better than ever. We're the only people that are right and everybody else is wrong. And, the teachings of hell bothered me, even though I believed them for years. It took years to walk out of this.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah,
literal, still walking out of some of it, honestly. Like, it's embedded in your DNA.
I was going to ask you, I might as well fast forward to it, but like, how do you look at faith now? I mean, what's your faith now? Because I mean, it's in a way I feel like I had an awakening like that because I had to go to church. But even back then when I was going to church, I was still questioning all that stuff while I was there. It took me a long time to get baptized until I was a senior in high school. And only because I was going to get that graduation money. Mm-hmm. And that's the only reason I did it. Cause I think I was in church going, man, I don't know. This don't make no sense. How did he, just say you believe, all right, I believe, and then they baptized me. All right, they give my money. Mm-hmm. And that's, and it's like, and now I question so much now that I'm really close to being I'll say atheist, but I question a lot. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So where's your faith at now?
Same place, basically. I think probably, I guess I could be categorized as agnostic. I've been involved in the Quaker Church to some degree, because they're very progressive, I have a very spiritual side that I'm drawn to. I'm very drawn to.
Spiritual as in what way?
And just I believe that there's something bigger than us. I believe there's something outside of me and I believe there's something inside of me that's bigger than we know.
Definitely.
And that we're big, that we're not willing. We're too afraid to accept our power.
Yes.
And that's where, but I believe that's where the divine lives, is in us. And it's not this, and there's just so much I know that I'll never understand, which is very difficult for me because I like to know. When you're raised with concretes and you think that you know the truth,
I definitely understand that.
But now I literally question everything.
Well, which is good though. I remember reading an interview where Jesse Ventura said religion is for weak-minded people. It's a crutch. And I remember reading that. And I like that aspect of it, and like to a degree, I believe in it, but I also believe in, and it's weird, is that if you throw in, like I like to do like my own little, do trial and error in life, you throw it out to the universe and see what happens.
Right.
And something hears it. And if you say it, that's why you're always careful about what you say, what you speak out into the world, because the universe hears that.
Yes.
And whether you put a religious aspect of it, whatever, but the universe hears it. And me, I like to talk to myself and to the universe and throw it out there. And whether that's being perceived as a spirit or a deity or whatever, I just believe in throwing it out to the universe, and the universe hears it, and hopefully it manifests itself.
Same.
And you feel the same way now?
Yes, that's how I feel. And I just can't subscribe to organized religion. Like I've tried. I thought maybe I could get something, and I have respect for the Quaker church that I've been involved in the past, but there's just something for me that's triggering about it. And it's like being in business with your friends.
Yeah, or family, yeah.
Yeah, and I just feel I get more out of just, having my own
belief.
Yeah, spirituality at home or whatever. I just don't. Organized religion just still does not set very well with me.
Same here. So when did you flee? Like when was the day you go, I'm out, I'm done, see you later?
I finished college and got a job. And then that year of my senior year of college, we separated several times because it was just constant fighting and just me trying to break free. And trying to figure out how to do that because I knew the loss was going to be huge. And I had to walk away literally from everything for a long time because my family in that religion, they practiced shunning. Over the years, it got better, but for a long time, I had very little relationship with any of my extended biological family because I got a divorce. I left that family. Nobody understood, obviously.
Of course.
They were, and it's fear. Like people, they're not hateful people.
No.
They thought I was going to go to hell, and how they handle that is,
Of course.
Now I'm like, well, it's like you're going to be mean to people that are going to go to hell. So,
yeah.
But, I have a greater understanding of that, and I handled it the only way I knew to was, harshly and walk away and. Which I don't, not that it would have really been perceived any differently. It wouldn't have mattered, I don't think, how I handled doing it. The fact that I was doing it and going against, church teaching and my family's history, my family traditions was not accepted. And I basically got an apartment and most people didn't even know where I lived.
Wow.
Took my 3 kids and when I, and it's not like I planned this step by step. I know my family at the time thought that I did. You went to college so you could get a divorce and all this. And, a lot of it really did happen organically because once I realized that there was a different way to live, I took it. And it meant just literally walking away from everything. And
being shunned for a while. I mean, honestly, people don't realize.
My relationship with my family, the extended family that I was raised with, has never been the same. I have a relationship with my parents. I do with my siblings. I have a great relationship with my siblings. I'm the oldest, so they didn't really have a choice. But I lost all my church family, that whole community, most of my extended family.
So you're a sinner in their eyes, huh?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, so when did you realize, you know what, I want to help? I mean, when did you realize, you know what, I don't want people to go through this, what I went through?
I think the whole time I'm very much a nurturer and a caregiver. When with 7 kids, you gotta be.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
But I later, once my kids were bigger and I wasn't so weighed down, and plus my own healing has taken so much energy to understand and be free of the fear of and guilt. Oh my gosh, the guilt I carried for not being a perfect parent, for getting a divorce and, breaking up my older kids' home. The guilt of that was nearly killed me, like literally nearly killed me, because it's like no kid deserves a 15-year-old mom. Nobody. And no parent, no girl is ready to parent at 15 and 17 and 20, and to have 3 kids by 22.
Oh my God.
And I had a lot of support. Like I said, I had the best case scenario of a child bride because we eventually moved back to live next door to my parents before my first child was born. So, I had this, I was back in my community, where, I had that village to raise a child.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thankfully.
Yeah. With the 10 aunts.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're very nurturing. Like I had a very nurturing upbringing, and a lot of people don't have that. And a lot of child brides, that is not their story. And I feel like my story is valuable because I can speak to how devastating it is on so many levels, even with best case scenario.
When like I said, I knew we were doing this, so I said, I'm going to do a little background research, whatever. And what I found, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, I was appalled. I mean, I was like in my room last night going, oh my God. I mean, I joke, at Wyatt or whatever and say, man, I'm a creeper, this and that, and then I'm just joking, but when I saw this, I go, my God, this is horrible. I mean, some of the stats here, there's 9 states where there's no minimum age for marriage. 9 states. Massachusetts has the lowest minimum parental consent, which is 12.
Yeah.
The age of 12. That's 6th grade.
Yeah. I think Massachusetts maybe just changed that or is in the process. But we have even neighboring states like Michigan is either nothing or low. Illinois. So Indiana is 17 or above, but you can go to Michigan. They're very much they're states that child marriage is drawn to from Indiana because
it's close.
They just go to the next state. Yeah.
So why do you think that child marriage is still on the books? It as prevalent as it is. Like you said, there's child marriages legal in 40, I said 44, you said 43 states? 43, 44, tomato.
Exactly.
But I mean, but why is it still prevalent? Why is it still around? And in today's age, with everything coming to light, which I think the great thing about the pandemic was it really exposed a lot of the things that were there, and we just kind of looked over because we were all doing our hustling and bustling year after year after year. And then when we got a chance to stop and really see what was going on with the Black Lives Matter and with the Me Too movement, which I thought was great. Why now in 2022, with everything that has come to light in every possible way, why is child marriage still prevalent?
Yeah, especially Pakistan. You can't get married in Pakistan under 18, but you can in the U.S.
Are you serious?
Yes.
In Pakistan?
Pakistan has a federal law banning marriage under 18.
So even Osama bin Laden was like, damn, I can't get married yet. Really?
Right.
The number one terrorist like, man, these laws keep keeping a brother down.
Exactly.
I got to go to the U.S. to get me a child bride.
Exactly.
That's why the Twin Towers came down.
He was shopping.
He's on Tinder. Hey, who here? But why is it? But seriously, why is it though? I mean, if it's just your gut instinct, your gut answer, why is child marriage still prevalent as it is today? And why isn't a light being shined on the way it should? The way it should. I mean, these are kids, man. These are girls.
Mm-hmm. Most people don't realize it's still legal in the U.S. Most people that I tell this, they're like, no, what? Like when we were talking, you were like, no way, this can't be true. Most people, awareness is huge. But when I've spoken to lawmakers, which has been frequently, it's not a priority. It's not going to make anybody any money. We don't have big lobbying. We don't pay, lobbyists and things like that. Like, this is what you get here. Me showing up, some 5'2" big mouth, girl.
From Harlan, Kentucky.
Right, exactly.
With some moonshine, with some shine, probably a shotgun in the backseat. I don't get this lost. I tell you what, I don't get this law passed. Y'all gonna be sorry you ever met me. Right? That's what you should do. Maybe you should do that. I mean, that seems to be the way to go nowadays.
I won't promote gun violence.
I didn't say gun violence. But I'm just saying, maybe if you offer some shine, you know.
Maybe might be.
I'm sure you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody.
Oh, I could get you some this afternoon.
I don't need that. I don't need that. I mean, whoa. Hey, man, you had that quick. Hey, BT, you after show, I'll hook you up. Pickup truck comes like with a Confederate flag. Hey, I know who you are. Me and Wyatt at the party. But I think you hit it right there on the head. It's the money aspect.
It is a big part of it.
It all boils down to it.
And I mean, look who's in charge. I mean, seriously, say it. Old white men. Old white men, and that's who I talk to in the legislature, and they don't care to a certain degree, but they care also. They're afraid. The reasons I've been given from these mouths of these people is it may raise the abortion rate, because what if a girl gets pregnant and then she can't get married? Because if it's 18 no exceptions, which is what we want. We want 18 no exceptions federally. What if she gets pregnant? Shouldn't she, well, the idea that marriage solves anything is a problem. Marriage is not a solution to anything.
No.
People think it is. It's not. It's not a solution to teen pregnancy. It's not a solution to any of the reasons given for child marriage. And it's protected because of things like that they think that if a girl is pregnant, she can't get married, then maybe what if she had an abortion? I was told by one lawmaker that the child also has to consent. I had to sign to say, he was like, did you not have to sign? I'm like, I was 14. There's no other, let me think about it. You can't take your child at 14 and say, I'm a parent and I'm going to give them consent to drive or to buy cigarettes or alcohol or join the military. There's no other instance that you can take a parent can take a child and give consent for them to do adult things. Like, children need legislative protection.
Yes. But I mean...
Or you'd have 9-year-olds driving cars smoking cigarettes while they're drinking.
Hey, which I think in some rural communities they do. But man.
And I don't think maybe the consequences probably wouldn't be as far reaching as child marriage.
I'm with you on that one. I'm being dead serious. I mean, I think what really hit hard was when I was reading up, and there was one instance where it was almost, I can't say similar to yours, but a girl met, I think, a youth pastor or somebody in the church, and they would come by and I guess counseling, whatever. And she ended up getting pregnant, and so instead of getting accused of statutory, they got married, which protected him. Mm-hmm. And
that happens a lot.
Got married at a courthouse, and they say afterwards she went. There was a park across the street from the courthouse, and she went and played at the park, like she went on a merry-go-round. And I go, that's just sick. Yeah. I mean, that's just. It takes a lot for me to go, wow. I mean, to do wow. But it just resonated so much with me. I mean, to the point, I'm almost embarrassed for myself, not really knowing that, but I just, man, it didn't sit right with me. And it still doesn't sit right with me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I mean, I think now, does some of that lead to child sex slavery?
Yes. Because when it's a guardianship situation, normally the husband, this does happen to boys, but way way lower percentage. It's usually underage girls marrying over adult men. But yes, it is a problem. It is a factor in human trafficking, because a trafficker can marry the victim and then cross state lines, and they have free reign. And like I said earlier, the minor has no. You can't even go to a shelter. You can't seek help at a domestic violence shelter. So this person has total control over you.
But doesn't that violate the Mann Act? Which, the Mann Act. That was when it was actually enacted because of Jack Johnson. He was the first black heavyweight champion. And so they didn't like him, having sex with white women. So, and that's what he did, because they couldn't beat him up because he was the heavyweight champion. So they made a law that said if you take anybody across state lines for immoral purposes, you go to jail. So can they enact the Mann Act with that then?
No, because it's marriage and it's not considered immoral purposes after the marriage.
Even though
that's why they do it, because if they took them before the marriage, then it would be. But if you get married or if a parent goes with you across state lines, your guardian's with you, they're giving permission, there's no immoral act because it's marriage.
I know it's mainly, we mainly talk about women, but we mentioned little boys, like you said, very rare instances, but what instances are there boys involved?
Most of the time with boys, it's true, teen marriage. There's two underage kids and their parents take and
kind of force them.
Or they allow it, or the girl gets pregnant, once 16, 17, whatever, and the girl is pregnant and the parents consent and they can get married. And that's in some states, that's part of the judicial permission that can be obtained, like Indiana. In Indiana, it's 17 and over, but you can go before a judge and get exceptions to that, which is problematic on a lot of levels. But that happens in some cases with boys. That's the majority of the cases with young boys. But it does happen sometimes that they are married to older women.
Really?
I follow a guy on TikTok that was married at 15 to a 30-something-year-old.
How did that happen?
And most of the time it's poverty. Sometimes it is abuse. It is to cover the molestation or something like that. Because obviously at that point, sexual abuse. And his story's pretty horrific. But that's not that's an exception to most boys that get married underage. Most boys are marrying underage girls.
Okay. But do you think it gets dicey because I've seen it happen. So like say the guy is 19, but he's dating a girl. And maybe they've been dating, like they've been sweethearts, and maybe he was a freshman and she was maybe in 8th grade or whatever. Maybe he was a junior and she, and it happens. I've seen it before. And let's just say he's 19 and she's 16, she gets pregnant. So they get married to keep him, because if the parents didn't like the boy, and so they get married to keep him from being charged with statutory rape. Now, what do you think of situations like that? Because I've seen that happen before. They're dating, parents don't like him, she's pregnant. Before they can file, statutory rape, they get married. Now, what do you think? And that's, I think, where it gets dicey. So I just want your personal opinion on that.
Well, statutory rape charges are, I don't think that would be applicable to 16 and 19. Because age for consent, sexual consent, I think in most states is 15 or 16. But still, no, even the boy, take the boy. I mean, at 19, probably undereducated. Nobody under 18 needs to be getting married. Like I said earlier, it's not, marriage should not be seen as a solution to anything.
Yeah.
Because you still, I think it's over 80% of marriages that involve minors end in divorce. Poverty is a huge issue. Then you have these two children raising a child, which obviously there's probably a child, if the child's going to be born. Yeah. And instead of using marriage as a solution, that's where we need to go back and have, services. And I don't know, people may disagree with me on this, it's fine, but I feel like we've had such a breakdown in our community, and we lack mentors, and we lack, even basic life skills. I mean, I think at 14, I was raised, like I said, in a communal situation with a lot of women. I could cook, I could clean, I knew how to take care of a baby. You don't have that really.
And we had home ec classes.
More. Yes. And we don't have that kind of thing anymore. I think now, even nowadays, people are less equipped to have a baby at 16 that I was at 15 at the time, because at least I had a village, and at least I had these skills that I had, I don't know how old I was when my grandmother taught me to fry chicken. Young.
Isn't that weird though? You're so right, because now you got all this technology. You know, I can get on my phone and talk to somebody in Spain or Italy right now, or whatever. You could track a plane, but you don't have those skills, like you said, like to fry chicken from your grandma. How great is that?
Yeah.
And when did you learn that? What age?
Oh God, I don't know. I don't ever remember not frying chicken.
We had one instruction. Like,
Probably 12 or 13. Like I could do it when I got married.
Don't touch the stove. That's all my mom said. Don't touch the goddamn stove. That was our instructions. Anyway, she said, like, okay, mama. And we didn't touch that stove.
Yeah, we cooked all the time. I still do.
That is, that right there is great. And like
You've had my cookies.
Yes, oh my God. Yeah, she made me some Man, I ate those all that when I was texting you, I ate them all that right then and there. Yeah, to me, there's no leftover. Like, I have no Tupperware because why? Yeah. Leftovers, what are those for? I mean, zero leftover. That's a foreign word to me. I don't even know how to spell that because there's no such thing as leftovers.
Well, I cook so much. I have a hard time now that I live by myself.
Yeah.
I still cook for, a whole bunch of people. So
good for you.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so now you're with the Resiliency Foundation.
Yes.
Explain that. I think that's great. And this just came about. That foundation was founded, in 2019?
Yes. That was founded by Genevieve. She's also a child bride survivor. I would call us thrivers. It's not just survivors.
Good.
And to help exact more legislation in this arena. There's also another organization that is they are dedicated to ending child marriage and forced marriage, which is different in a lot of cases. It's called Unchained at Last, unchainedAtlast.org, resiliencyfoundation.org. Those are two of the big, especially Unchained at Last. They've been around longer, and they have a little bit more legislative pull, I would say, as much as we do, which is not a lot.
Yeah.
But they work nationally and internationally.
Now, I saw on the website, it said that you want to help in big business participation. Like, what do big businesses do as far as with that you're trying to eliminate them in this child bride? Because I just saw briefly on the website, it said eliminate big business has something to do with that. And I wish I had my iPad.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at that too. I'm not sure exactly what. I don't know that I'm familiar with that.
But if you can get big business to help and have put money, like you said, it's all about money. If you can get money
that's probably what they're alluding to is we don't have big supporters. We don't have a lot of money. We don't have any money. It's very to say grassroots is an understatement, and because
why?
people don't want to touch stuff like this because number one, it doesn't make anybody any money. Number two, it's like I was talking with a lady at a conference this weekend from the International Justice Mission, who they work to end slavery and human trafficking and in the world. But we were talking about how child marriage is and they weren't even they were like, oh wow, like they weren't even aware it was still that prominent in the U.S.
Wow.
And they have these organizations just across the board have issues getting funding and getting support. And that's why, you see this, donate $25 a month to the International Justice Mission. It does make a difference, like these grassroots efforts, because that's what we have, because big businesses are afraid to touch things that talk about that could possibly step on religious freedom toes. Like some of this child marriage comes under, that's another reason that we get resistance is people say that it's religious freedom, that if it's a religious reason or that's one reason that they can get judicial exceptions in some of the states that do have laws that are over 18, is they go and say, well, we're this religion and this is our tradition. But there's no mainstream religion that officially sanctions child marriage. Mm-hmm. But still it's used in a lot of instances by, to tell judges or whatever that this is how we believe. We believe that, they tie it into that. that religious freedom.
It's almost frustrating to see that how everyone's, it's like they're afraid to go against religion. I feel like,
yes, very much so.
It's almost like religion is almost like a mafia.
Well, look what they tie it to. You know, like my son and I were having this conversation yesterday. Since the 80s, basically, when, Reagan paired himself with the religious and they became the religious right.
Yeah.
That's when it really, like, the focus on the family, the whole thing like that. That's when religion and politics merged, and they knew that that's where the power was.
Didn't he go hand in hand with Jerry Falwell?
Yes.
And that, and when they do that,
James Dobson.
Yes.
All that.
Oh my God.
Yep.
It almost makes
I'm
you
gonna
sick.
get hate mail now.
Who cares? I mean, honestly, yeah, exactly. I get so sick of that.
I've gotten worse.
Really? Have they come after you? Have anybody come after you for you doing this?
No, no, not directly. No,
I hope not.
But people, it just feels there's something that feels moral about marriage, and I'm not knocking marriage. I've done it twice.
Really? You got married twice? I didn't know you got married twice.
I've been married. Yeah, I have. I've not been divorced. I was married the second time for 28 years.
Really? If you mind me asking, like, what happened?
It's just
marriage? I mean,
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
Was it good though? Was it a good
It
one?
was. It
Okay.
was. We had 2 more children together, and then we adopted 2 from Ukraine.
Oh, that's great. So, like, are you going to the war then after this? I mean, you're gonna
I might.
you're gonna suit up and like,
they
oh
need
shit,
to-
that's cat. And you're like,
They need to let me at Putin.
yeah, you never know. He would never see it coming. You're
would
walking over.
not.
You got them cookies. I got some cookies for you, Putin.
With
They-
icing.
Oh, you poison him. How apropos would that be? He poisoned, I don't think people he poisoned, right? At lunch, he killed that one spy. Remember, you have lunch with Putin, there's 50-50 chance you ain't gonna make it out. What if you went in, you guys had lunch together, and you gave him your cookies? Bam, he's gone. You are a hero. And you're like this, Cat Lucas.
Child marriage banned
Yeah,
instantly.
Exactly. All because of you. They would never see it coming.
It would not.
Never see it coming. We already get trained by Navy SEAL anyway.
See?
Kenny trained you. You could be like the female Liam Neeson.
You're
like
the
I possess.
operative.
Yeah, you be the Kentucky Liam Neeson. I possess a certain set of skills. I got some shine and I got some cookies.
I bet Kenny's not on board with that.
Come on, Putin.
He'd be like, I am not getting involved with her.
Come on, Putin. I'm ready for you. You fly over to Kiev. I'm looking for Putin.
I'm not a bad shot, so.
I bet you're not. If you're from Kentucky, I know you could shoot, and there's a lot of things you can do. Probably skin a raccoon.
A deer. I can dress a deer.
I don't doubt it. Go over your house, have some
Fish.
possum stew. Like, oh my God, this is great.
I will never starve to death. How about that?
Hey, when the apocalypse comes, I'm coming to your house.
Exactly.
Like, BT, shh, be quiet. You rappel down from the trees. Like, oh my God, is that cat? Honestly, man, what you have done, I'm glad we had this discussion because it needed to be had. And I'm so glad it just happened by chance that you hit me up. And I will give myself credit for this. Sometimes I know now in my different level of life that I'm in, I know now when to shut up and listen to people.
I'm learning that.
And go. It's a work in progress for all of us. And I remember, and I was going, I got to have her on. I said, I have to have her on. I mean, I'm not on some kind of like, hey, I'm, going to be the savior and help you. But it's just something that needs to be done. I'm like,
I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you because, what makes me so mad, I'm a comic. So it's like I see guys, and I understand what they're doing. You see male comics going, I'm a female, I'm a male feminist. And I hate that shit. You know what I mean? To me, it's like bending over backwards and almost being kind of, in a way, that's the way I look at it. I'm a tough love kind of fair. I think everything should be fair, but I'm a tough love one. It may come off kind of crass and it may come off like, wow, really? But I really want the best for you ladies. I really do. So I tell people all the time, if you want to dress a certain way, which is your right, you go right ahead and do it. But there's going to be consequences when you do that. So just be prepared. And I tell them all the time, and you have every right and good for you, but there's going to be consequences that come along with it. But I wish everybody, and I just hope this resonates with somebody. If I just get one comment or one something that says this conversation we had here help somebody see the light or help them go, wow, really? And it opened up maybe a dialogue or maybe got something happening. That's my goal for this. What do you want for it to happen?
I want people to understand the consequences. I really do. Like I think that once people understand the why, why am I trying to get this word out, to raise awareness? What's the big deal? Like, a few 100,000 kids have been in child marriage, but the ramifications are just so generationally far reaching. Yeah. And, like I mentioned earlier, being a parent as a teenager wasn't fair to me either. It was very difficult being raised by a teen mom that had so much on her plate and had so much stress and the trauma from that, the trauma from having to be an adult at 14. And then even like I mentioned, my second marriage, which was to a great guy. We had, like I said, we've done a lot of great things together. I still love him, in a different way. But it was being married to somebody that had all this trauma to work through. Like I can't imagine being married to me. Because I've been, I'm not the person that I was, 30 years ago, of course. I'm not the person I was even 5 years ago. And I really know that that's all you can ask of someone. Yeah. But the fallout to myself and the healing that I've had to do and the stuff I've had to work through, even, forgiving other people, forgiving myself, forging relationships with the people that didn't know enough to protect me as a child. And, you just hope that, when I think it was Maya Angelou, she said, when you know better, you do better. And that's what I want people to do. I want them to know that this is happening and I want us to do better. We can do better by our kids. Like this whole, the hashtag Save the Children thing, like this is an opportunity to do that across the board. As far as this thing is not that hard to end. It is not that difficult to end. Like don't stick it on the end of some other bill. Like let's address this because of the ramifications that's so far reaching in our society. Like trauma is a big enough problem already. Right. And that we have a societal trauma crisis. I mean, we have, and a lot of things are in that, and this part of this thing causing traumas to so many can be ended pretty quickly legislatively, and that's what I want.
That's beautiful, and I mean that. It's beautiful. Like I said, I'm speechless. I'm almost speechless behind this because like I said, I had no idea. That's why I'm so glad. Like, it sounds so I don't know, hippie kind of whatever, but everything does kind of happen for a reason. It happened for a reason that you hit me up about the podcast I had with Kate Dingley, about the motorcycles. And it just so happened, because I was looking at the thread and we got to talking about this and I was like, oh my God, I have to talk about this. It just has to get out there. Mm-hmm. So, man, I cannot thank you enough. And I think what you do, and I can just tell by everything about you that you are trying to be a better person. Even without knowing you, I can tell that you're constantly trying to better yourself. And I mean that. I can tell by the little things that I don't know you, but I can tell by the little things that doing this, hit me up, and just knowing you from Kenny's, from coming in and hitting the bags or whatever, doing that little thing. When you bought the cupcakes or the cookies, goddamn, it touched me. And he's made for everybody. And that was it just showed your heart. And I mean, I thought that was so beautiful. That little thing like that was so touching. It just showed how you are as a person. And I can tell you're trying to get better as a person. Little things you do. I don't know is that like the bracelet? Is that like a Buddhist kind of thing or?
No, actually, there's a place in Nashville. My daughter lives in Nashville, Tennessee. There's a place called Thistle Farms, and they help trafficking victims. And I bought this bracelet at their store. The trafficking survivors make jewelry for Thistle Farms, so I got that. I do have chakra bracelets. Like part of my, spiritual practice is just self-care, and I understand sometimes for me self-care is hard. Like walking into walking into Dragonfly this year.
But you
I've
did.
done so many things this year has been out of my comfort zone because I went through the divorce, all this stuff, and it's like
That's how you grow.
I want to grow, and I do constantly want to be a better person.
I can
Constantly.
tell. We got to get that. Kat, thank you so much. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. You are a godsend. I mean it from the bottom. You're great. Thank you. Thank you guys for watching Tales from a Gemini. I'm BT. You know how we say about this time. Peace.